From the four corners of Beverly Hills, I'm Max Schwartz. This is Let's Talk Politics, and it starts right now. Today, as my in-studio guest, I have candidate for Los Angeles County District Attorney, Jackie Lacey. Thank you for joining me today, candidate Lacey. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Max. I'm excited about talking to your viewers today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on. I would like to make note, as we're obviously taping this week, things have changed since our last episode, and we are taping this week. Also, I would like to point out that I have extended an invitation to the other candidates for Los Angeles County District Attorney, and we have not scheduled the other candidates as of yet. Also, if they do come on the show before Tuesday's primary, I will make sure that everyone gets the same questions so you, my viewers, know their stance on the issues. And that brings up the other point. June 5th is the primary. This is a top 2 primary in the state of California, the first ever to my knowledge. So it is extremely important, this primary above all, that you go out and vote. I'd like to see Beverly Hills have a higher turnout percentage than last presidential primary's turnout percentage. And one more note is from Mayor Freeman Wilson's episode of Gary, Indiana. That was another first for Let's Talk Politics, as she was the first sitting elected official from not sitting in a position in the state of California to appear on Let's Talk Politics. Now, without further ado, let's talk politics. Why are you running for Los Angeles County District Attorney?
Max, I'm a 26-year veteran, and I think I have the most experience to offer LA County residents. I want to make sure that we're safe, and I have the background, experience, and knowledge to do that, and I believe I'm the best candidate.
Okay, and why do you believe you are qualified for holding this position?
Well, I have been in the office for 26 years, and I've worked my way up from like a frontline trial prosecutor all the way up to the number 2 person. And unlike other candidates, though, I have 10 years of trying cases in the courtroom, but I have 12 years of managing lawyers. And LA County District Attorney's Office is a very complex place, a lot of moving parts, as you say, and I have that knowledge and experience to do that.
And is that what you believe sets you apart from your competitors?
Absolutely, absolutely, and all competitors. I have a decade more leadership experience than they do.
Okay, and why would you prefer to work in the public sector rather than the private sector?
Well, I started out not too far away from here in Century City, working for a sole practitioner right out of law school. And I was in a deposition. I was bored to death. And a friend said that the Santa Monica City Attorney's Office was hiring prosecutors. I went to work there, and I fell in love with the courtroom. I realized this is where I was meant to be.
Okay, and we're going to move out of the background questioning into your stance on the issues and what your role is now. How do you believe, or how does your current position keep you in touch with local and national law enforcement agencies?
Oh my goodness, I just got off the phone this morning with the school police, of all people. And what you need to know is we're constantly in touch, law enforcement. As the chief deputy, I get many calls from law enforcement about issues. And one of the biggest issues facing law enforcement, for instance, right now, is public safety realignment, the shift of prisoners from the state to the local level. And our local law enforcement partners are going to be very taxed and stretched in order to deal with it.
And that brings up a good point. We're going to save that, though, for another time. And how will you, when elected, how will you stay in touch with local and national law enforcement?
Well, first of all, I think as the largest prosecutor's office in the nation, we're often looked to for leadership. And we do a lot of networking through organizations. We belong at times to the same organizations as law enforcement, such as an organization called POLAC, certainly California Police Chiefs Association and LA County Police Chiefs Association. And just being out and about with law enforcement and listening to what they have to say. I don't think it'll be hard. You got to be approachable and you got to be willing to listen. They'll find you.
And speaking about listening, and we have viewers listening, so why should people trust you to make the top prosecutor? To be the top prosecutor?
Well, I think because I've earned it by not misplacing their trust. Max, I'm supported by not only the current district attorney, the Los Angeles Times, the Daily News, the Long Beach Press-Telegram, the Pasadena Star. All of these newspapers have put me through the ringer and looked in my background and said, this is a trustworthy prosecutor who's worthy of leading. So.
And as an impartial TV host, I'm not going to comment on that. Like I'm not going to comment on a lot of what guests say, so that way I don't influence our viewers' opinions. And one thing, and you bring up the overcrowding of prisons by saying they're going to be transferring prisons from system to system. So what are you going to do knowing, or let me rephrase the question. How will you use your influence as district attorney, if you are elected, to stop the cuts to the prison system?
Well, I think you, as the district attorney of LA County, you have a big voice. The governor listens, the legislature listens. And I know that from personal experience of going to Sacramento and lobbying for certain things. One is that this shift of prisoners is going to really tax our systems, and so we need the Governor Brown to honor his commitment to shift resources, to shift money our way, because many of these prisoners are suffering from, that we're going to see, some of them are suffering from drug addiction, mental illness, and we've got to also address those issues as well as make sure that their punishment fits the crime. So I think that as district attorney, I'll be there arguing or forcefully advocating with the governor, send the money, send the money, send the money. I also think that I'll be advocating for legislation to make sure that, for instance, identity thieves, some of those people need to go to prison. County jail is not going to deter some of those type of people. And then third, I'm going to prioritize, like you do with anything. We cannot send prisoners at the same rate that we've been doing to the county jail system that we've been doing over the last 10, 20 years. And so we need alternatives. And I have a plan.
Okay. And your discussion segues into my next question, which is knowing that the prisons are overcrowded and courts are being cut, so it's extremely difficult to get a court date nowadays. How will you go about prosecuting or tell your office to go about prosecuting quote-unquote smaller crimes?
Well, for the last 5 years, Max, I've been a part of something called the Alternative Sentencing Team. And there are certain offenses that are lower level offenses, non-serious, non-violent, that we can divert out of the jail system and put people on probation to the judge. And I think we've got to take full advantage of that. Courts like Veterans Court, Mental Health Co-occurring Disorders Court, and drug court are underutilized, in my opinion, and we could utilize those courts more. Yeah, courts are closing. Luckily, they're not felony courts. Right now, most of the courts that I see closing are civil courts as well as some misdemeanor courts, so we may be able to take some prosecutors out of the misdemeanor courts and put them in the felony courts where they can really work with these cases.
Okay, and knowing this same information, how will you go about prosecuting quote-unquote larger or big crimes?
I think that if you are a criminal in the LA County system who is violent, who has harmed people, you've got to go to state prison, and you will be punished adequately and under my administration. It's as simple as that. I have no tolerance for violent crime, and certainly think that ought to be punished appropriately. And I will also say too that. It's always been that way. We've gotten the violent crime right. We've gotten that right. I think we've done a good job on gang crime, which is something that is, I'm sure, important to your listeners. People want to make sure that people who commit violent gang crime, who choose that lifestyle, are going to be punished appropriately for their crimes. So those things will continue to, under my administration, will continue to happen. But I do believe that we have to save room. We don't have room to put everybody who comes to the criminal justice system in prison. It's costly. It costs $50,000 to incarcerate people. It costs $50,000. If you put them in alternative sentencing courts, drug programs, you can save the taxpayers as much as $6-7 million.
Yes, and this is an entirely different issue, but to put that money to education would be fantastic. Because we're like number 1 or something on the prison list, but number 48 or something on the education list.
Yeah, we could do better.
Yes, and I want to move topics now and talk about police brutality. There have unfortunately been several incidents recently where there has been police brutality, and people have claimed police brutality in multiple other cases. And one thing that comes into people's mind is they don't believe the DA will, quote unquote, prosecute one of their own, end quote. So what will you do to ensure the public, or what can you say to ensure the public that you will prosecute police officers, that there is evidence supporting police brutality proportionally equal to the amount of other citizens or normal citizens that you prosecute?
Well, I always hesitate. First of all, no one is above the law. No one is above the law. I don't care whether you're a police officer or not. If you commit a crime, you have to pay. That's just that simple. And excessive force cases are very difficult. They are challenging cases. But if we believe beyond a reasonable doubt that you broke the law and used excessive force, then we will prosecute those cases. The public probably could use more education about what goes into those cases and the cases that we do. You know, the Kelly Thomas case in Orange County makes the news, but there are other cases that that our office is prosecuting that no one really knows about. And so the perception may be that we do not prosecute police brutality cases. We do. They're challenging, though, because with excessive force cases, there are normally dueling experts. There is also, when you're talking about police officers, they have what's called the Police Officer Bill of Rights, which we respect, which I respect. And so it's challenging, and it is frustrating. It is frustrating. I think that oftentimes there's what you see on videotape on those cases, and then there's what the witnesses say, and then there's what really happened. And it can be hard to decipher what really happened.
Okay. And what will you do if you are elected to be district attorney to work with law enforcement agencies to reduce the amount of excessive force claims there are and to retrain the police officers?
Yeah. It wouldn't be my job to retrain the police officers on their tactics on the street. That's outside of my purview. That's really up to the chiefs, the different chiefs of police. What I will do is work with the chiefs of police and suggest to them and provide them with information on what our filing criteria is. I will try to be responsive. I will be responsive to the police chiefs. Many times they feel that it takes a while for us to get back to them. And I would really like to see that improve. They have a right to sort of know. Because what happens is an officer is normally put at home suspended with pay, and they're stuck. They're sort of stuck. So I think that there are probably ways that we could make decisions on those cases with a little bit more eye toward, toward the fact that it's taking too much time.
Okay. Again, I'm going to be an impartial TV host and say that, so that way I don't influence my viewers, as I previously mentioned. And one more question in this type of questioning is about the state of California prison systems refusing a federal court order to return execution drugs, for the lack of a better term, to the FDA. For those that do not know, the FDA requested that the state of California, that state prison systems return this drug that's used in the execution process. It is an imported drug, for the medication is no longer made by U.S. firms. The state of California prison system is not surrendering it as the federal order states. What will you do if elected about this?
Yeah. I think that this is between, because I'm following this also, this is between the FDA and the prison system. What I will say, and the death penalty issue that we should discuss is it still appropriate in LA County? That's really the question that's on everybody's mind, because there's an initiative coming up in November that would essentially do away with the death penalty. And what I would like to tell you, and I'd like to tell the viewers, is that there are some incredibly evil people out there. And the death penalty, we have a lot of controls on it. It goes through a high degree of scrutiny. We do not seek death on every case that is eligible. We try to seek it on a small amount of cases. On top of that, the jury must decide who gets the death penalty, and they've got to be unanimous in it, and then the judge has to ratify that. If the issue is people feel that, hey, we don't execute someone because we don't have the right drug, or appeals take too long, the answer is not to do away with a punishment that our society feels is appropriate. The answer is to reform the appeal process. And as District Attorney of LA County, it's my constitutional duty to carry out the death penalty. I think it ought to be used sparingly and carefully.
So you are pro the death penalty?
I am in favor of the death penalty for appropriate cases.
Okay. What is your definition as appropriate?
I think when you're talking about someone who commits multiple murders, someone who's murdered before, been in prison, back out and commits another murder, someone who tortures someone, who tortures people before they're murdered, someone who rapes or molests people in the course of their murder. It's hard to say you know it when you see it. I've served on the Special Circumstance Committee, which is the committee in our office that makes these determinations, for 10 years. And most of those cases that come through there, they are appropriate for the death penalty. But every once in a while you see a certain degree of evil where this is the appropriate punishment for what this person did. Okay.
And with that, we will move on to, again, I'm not going to respond to that,
sure.
but I'm taking in all your comments, as
Sure.
I'm sure all of our viewers are. I'm going to move on to my next question. I believe because of time, this may be our last question. Financial crimes have been in the news a lot lately, and being in the community you live in, they're of great concern to our residents, or Beverly Hills' residents. How will you go about prosecuting financial crimes?
Well, financial crimes, first of all, there are a number of financial crimes. We're talking about identity theft, which I've been the victim of identity theft 3 times. I think that we have to have state prison as an option when people commit identity theft, because you can dismantle someone's life. But the financial crimes aspect that I'm most concerned about, Max, is our elders. Right now, our elders, they save their money, they pay off their homes, and people come in and they take over their finances. And what I would like to do is, I've seen an operation in New York, in the Bronx, where the DA's office actually partners with a seniors organization and gets the word out to seniors. Don't ever wire money. Don't ever let anybody call you and say wire money because somebody's in jail. Don't guard your information. Sometimes the person who steals from you might be a relative, and so you need to be on guard with that. And so what I'd like to do is prevent a lot of that from happening. It's hard to prosecute those cases because sometimes elders are in, they don't have the same mind or the same memories. Some are suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia, and it makes it really hard to prosecute those cases. I really would like to prevent that. I'd like bank officials to be on alert so that if they see some unusual activity by an elder, that they have to call the cops.
Okay. And in terms of corporate financial crime with big banks or with big executives or with treasurers, how will you go about prosecuting those and to make sure that those don't happen?
Right. We have a major fraud unit that prosecutes some of those cases. Most of those cases are going to be federal, Max. But with the ones that come to our office, I would like to explore the opportunity to actually hire prosecutors with an aptitude toward prosecuting financial crimes. Many of the prosecutors we hire, Max, think they're going to do murder cases. They think they're going to do the high-profile cases, and they may not understand or want to do paper cases. That's what we call, cases where you steal on paper. So I really would like to attract some lawyers who have an aptitude in prosecuting those cases and understanding those cases.
Is there money to hire those types of attorneys?
Sure. We need to recruit them. Even
in this time of fiscal crisis, the DA's office has money to open up new positions?
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, we've got a training class going on right now. We've just hired 20 lawyers. We'll hire 20 more.
Okay.
What the better question is, though, is our office is a government agency, and we obviously don't pay what you earn in private industry. But what we offer is something that's better than money. We offer an opportunity for a lawyer to be a hero. That's what we have at our DA's office. We have 1,020 heroes who go into court every day, who are compensated at what the government says, and they go in and they deliver justice for people who can't otherwise get it.
Okay.
There's nothing like that.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Candidate Lacey. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And sorry it was so brief, but due to timing, we had to keep it brief. Thank you very much for watching Beverly Hills. Let's Talk Politics with me after hours starts right now by calling 424-253-4MAX. You can also tweet me at Max Schwartz TV. You can send an an email to the LTP inbox, Let's Talk Politics inbox, at ltpon6@gmail.com, and you can follow and comment on my blog at maxschwartztv.blogspot.com. Thank you very much, Beverly Hills, and I will see you next time with qualitative economist, UCLA professor, and co-Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Woodrow Clark, speaking about climate change and not the COC. What's happening?
I have no idea. Wait.
What's the issue? Fade to black, please.